The war room was silent. Princess stood before the Council of 12, her silver skin pale under the cold light. Around her, the oldest and leaders of the Dominion sat in a circle. Their faces were tired. Their eyes were empty. 18 years of war had broken something inside all of them. "Read the terms again," said Elder, his voice rough like stones grinding together. The messenger cleared his throat. "The Terran Republic offers peace. They ask for one thing only, a marriage between their people and ours. One of our royal blood must marry one of their commanders. The war ends. Trade begins. They ask for nothing else." Silence again. Watched the elders look at each other. She could see the confusion on their faces. The fear. This was not how wars ended. They had conquered 11 different species across the galaxy. They knew what victory looked like. The winner always took planets, resources, slaves, power. The humans were winning. Everyone in this room knew it. For 18 years, they had thrown their best warriors, their greatest ships, their most advanced weapons at Earth and its colonies. And for 18 years, they had lost, not quickly, not dramatically. The humans never pushed forward. They never tried to take worlds. They simply held their ground and waited. Every attack failed. Every fleet returned smaller than before. And now the humans asked for a wedding. "It is a trap," said Elder. "It must be." "What kind of trap?" asked Elder. "They are winning. Why would they need tricks? Perhaps they want a hostage, someone to control us with. Then why ask for marriage? Why not simply demand a prisoner?" The arguing continued, listened but did not speak. She was thinking about her younger sister, Sweet, who loved painting and music, who cried when flowers died. The council would choose her. She was prettier, softer, more likely to please a foreign husband. Could not let that happen. "I will go," she said. Everyone stopped talking. 12 pairs of eyes turned to look at her. "Princess," Elder began, "you do not have to. I am the elder daughter. This is my duty," kept her voice steady. "Send word to the humans. I accept their terms." 3 weeks later, stood on the observation deck of a neutral space station called Grace. Through the wide windows, she could see ships from both sides floating in the darkness. Warships, long and silver like blades. Human vessels, blocky and gray, covered in strange markings she could not read. Her hands were shaking. She hid them in the folds of her ceremonial robe. The door behind her opened. Footsteps approached. She did not turn around. "Princess!" The voice was softer than she expected. She turned. The human was shorter than her. Most humans were. He had dark hair, dark eyes, and tan skin. He wore a simple military uniform, dark blue with silver markings on the shoulders. No crown, no jewels. He looked like an ordinary soldier. "I am Commander Park," he said. He spoke in, and his accent was strange but understandable. "I will be your husband." Studied him. He was not ugly, not handsome either, just ordinary. There was nothing special about him. Nothing that explained why the greatest military power in the galaxy had chosen him for this task. "Why you?" she asked. He blinked. "Excuse me. Your people could have chosen anyone. A prince, a general, a hero. Why did they choose you?" For a moment, something flickered across his face. Pain, sadness. It was gone before she could name it. "I volunteered," he said simply. That made no sense. "You volunteered to marry an enemy, a stranger, someone your people have been fighting for 18 years. "Yes. Why?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because I was tired of the killing, and when they told us this was a way to stop it, I wanted to be part of that." Did not know what to say. In the Dominion, warriors were honored for their kills. Generals boasted about battles won and enemies destroyed. No one ever said they were tired of killing. That would be weakness, shame. But this human said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I know this is not what you wanted," continued. His voice was gentle. "I know you did not choose this. I will do my best to make it bearable. I will not force you to do anything. I will not hurt you. I only ask that you give me a chance to show you that humans are not your enemies. You were my enemies yesterday." "Yesterday is gone," he smiled. It was a small smile, careful and kind. "Today, we are just two people trying to build something new." The wedding ceremony was simple. Human tradition, they explained, did not require blood sacrifices or oaths of eternal war. Instead, they exchanged small metal rings. They signed documents. People clapped. Afterward, there was food and music. humans, and stood in the same room, looking at each other with careful curiosity. No one fought, no one shouted. It was strange and uncomfortable, but also strangely peaceful. Sat in a corner, watching. Brought her a plate of food. "You should eat," he said. "It was a long day." She looked at the strange human dishes. "I do not know what any of this is." "Then I will explain." He sat down next to her, not too close, giving her space. "This is bread, this is cheese, this is something called chocolate. It is sweet, most humans love it." He talked about food for 20 minutes. Just food, not politics, not war, not the future of their peoples, just bread and cheese and chocolate. By the end of the night, realized something surprising. She did not hate him. She did not trust him. She did not understand him. But she did not hate him. It was the smallest possible beginning, but it was something. The transport ship took them to Earth 3 days later. Stood at the window, watching the blue planet grow larger. Oceans, clouds, green patches of land. It was beautiful in a way she had not expected. "Home," said quietly, standing beside her. "You're home," she corrected. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It could be yours too, if you want it to be." She did not answer. She did not know how. The ship descended through the clouds, and Princess of the Dominion entered the world of humans for the first time. She did not know then that this world would change her, that these strange, soft, confusing creatures would show her things she had never imagined. She only knew that the war was over, and somehow that terrified her more than the war itself. 6 months passed, learned to sleep in a human bed, eat human food, and breathe human air. The gravity on Earth was lighter than on her home world. The sun was yellow instead of blue. Everything smelled different, sounded different, felt different. But the hardest thing to understand was the humans themselves. She had started keeping a journal. At first, she told herself it was for intelligence. She would record everything she learned about these creatures, their weaknesses, their secrets. Someday, her people might need this information. But as the weeks passed, the journal became something else. It became a place where she wrote down the things that confused her, the things that made no sense. "Today brought me a flower." She stared at the words she had written. A flower, just a small purple thing with soft petals. He had found it at a market while buying vegetables. He said it reminded him of her. There was no strategic value in giving someone a flower. It did not increase power. It did not create advantage. It was just a gift. A small, beautiful, useless gift. And when he gave it to her, he smiled. That same gentle smile. He looked happy just because she took it from his hand. She did not understand. The days continued. She observed, she wrote. Humans cry at stories that are not real. This discovery came on a quiet evening, was watching something on the viewing screen. A story about two people who loved each other but could not be together. At the end, when one of them died, wiped his eyes. He was crying. "It is not real," said. She was confused. "Those people do not exist. Their pain is imaginary." Looked at her, his eyes were still wet. "I know it is not real, but the feelings are real. The story makes me feel something, so I feel it." "You choose to feel pain, on purpose." "I choose to feel everything." He smiled through his tears. "The happy parts, the sad parts, all of it, that is what stories are for. They help us practice feeling. Practice feeling. As if emotions were a skill. As if pain was something to be welcomed instead of avoided. Warriors were trained to control their emotions, to lock them away. Feelings were weakness. Feelings got you killed. But humans seemed to believe the opposite. They opened themselves to feelings. They invited pain into their hearts like a guest. It was madness. And yet, watching cry for imaginary people felt something strange, something like admiration. The biggest shock came 2 months later. Took her to meet his family. His mother lived in a small house near the ocean. Her name was. She was old, with gray hair and wrinkled hands. Her eyes were sharp but kind. Was terrified. She knew that had a brother. She also knew that his brother was dead, killed in the war, killed by weapons, perhaps killed by soldiers that herself had commanded. When opened the door, expected hatred. She expected cold eyes and harsh words. She expected to be reminded that she was the enemy. Instead, opened her arms and pulled into an embrace. "Welcome, daughter," the old woman said. Daughter stood frozen. She did not know what to do. She did not know what to feel. This woman had lost her son to people. She should hate her. She should want revenge. But she was hugging her, calling her family. Later, sitting in his kitchen, finally asked the question burning inside her. Your son died because of my people. How can you welcome me into your home? Was quiet for a moment. She poured tea into small cups. Her movements were slow and careful. My son is gone, she said finally. Nothing will bring him back. If I spend the rest of my life hating you, will that bring him back? No, it will only poison my heart. But the anger! The anger is still there. It will always be there. Looked at with eyes that held both pain and warmth. But I choose what to do with that anger. I can let it control me, or I can set it aside and try to build something better. She reached across the table and took his hand. My son wanted peace. He told me once that he wished the war would end. If I hate you now, I betray his wish. So I choose to love you instead, for him. Did not cry, but something broke inside her that day. Some wall she had built around her heart cracked just a little. She visited every week after that. Took her to museums, to memorials, to places where humans kept their history. She expected to see glories, conquests, celebrations of power. Instead, she saw horrors. The humans did not hide their darkness. They displayed it openly. Museums full of evidence of terrible things, wars fought against their own kind, mass killings, slavery, weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash of light. We did this to ourselves, explained as they walked through a memorial. The walls were covered with names, thousands and thousands of names. Before we went to the stars, we spent centuries hurting each other, killing each other, sometimes for good reasons, often for stupid ones. Why do you show this? Asked. Any other empire would bury such shame, hide it, pretend it never happened. Because forgetting is dangerous. Stopped in front of a wall of photographs. Faces, human faces, all of them dead. If we forget what we were, we might become it again. The darkness is still inside us. It always will be. But by remembering, we can choose to be better. Choose, that word again. Humans seemed obsessed with choice. Everything was a choice. Pain was a choice. Love was a choice. Even what to do with their own terrible history was a choice. Began to realize something important. Humans were not soft. They were not weak. They had simply made different choices than they had looked at their capacity for destruction and said, no, we will not be defined by this. It was a kind of strength had never seen before. In her journal that night, she wrote, I was wrong about humans. They are not weak creatures who avoided the hard path. They are creatures who walked through fire and chose not to burn others. They carry their scars openly, not as shame, but as reminders. They feel everything and hide nothing. I thought they were strange. Now I think they might be brave. She closed the journal and looked out the window. The stars were bright above the human city. Somewhere out there, her own people were looking at those same stars, still recovering from a war they had started and lost. And here she was, married to the enemy, slowly beginning to understand that he was never really an enemy at all. Just a man who was tired of killing. Just a people who had chosen to stop. 2 years into her life among humans, was given access to the military archives. It was who arranged it. He said it was a gesture of trust, a sign that the Terran Republic saw her as an ally, not a hostage. But suspected there was another reason. They wanted her to know. She spent 3 days in the archive building. It was a cold place, full of screens and data storage units. A young officer named helped her navigate the files. He was polite but quiet. He never looked directly at her eyes. On the first day, she read about human military history. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics. It was impressive but not surprising. She had known the humans were strong. That was why her people had lost. On the second day, she read about the various species humans had encountered since leaving Earth. Some were friendly. Some were hostile. Most kept their distance, watching the humans with the careful eyes of prey watching a predator. That confused her. Why would anyone fear humans? They seemed so gentle, so emotional, so obsessed with feelings and choices and flowers. On the third day, she found the file labeled the incident. The file was not hidden. It was not locked. But when saw her reach for it, he stood up suddenly. I need to take a break, he said. His voice was strange, tight. I will return in 1 hour. He left quickly, almost running, opened the file. The hegemony had been a powerful species. Warriors like they had ruled over 40 star systems. Their soldiers were feared across half the galaxy. They were faster, stronger, and more numerous than humans. 40 years ago, they had attacked Earth's colonies. The reasons were simple. The belief that humans were weak, easy prey. They had broadcast their intentions across every communication channel. They would enslave humanity, feast on their children, and use their bones to build temples. The war lasted 11 months. Read the first battle reports. They had won early victories. They had destroyed human colonies, killed millions. They had been confident, arrogant. They had laughed at human attempts to negotiate. Then something changed. The humans stopped talking. They stopped negotiating. They stopped asking for peace. And they started fighting. Not like before. Before, they had been defensive, careful, trying to protect their people while minimizing deaths on both sides. Now they attacked. Wave after wave of human ships poured out of their space. They did not stop to capture. They did not pause to negotiate. They burned everything. Military bases, destroyed. Supply lines, destroyed. Colonies, destroyed. Read faster now. Her hearts were pounding. The numbers did not seem real. The humans had not stopped at military targets. They had gone further. When the government refused to surrender, the humans had attacked their home world. They had broken through every defense. They had landed armies on the surface. And then, nothing. The home world was empty now, a dead rock floating in space. 3 billion had lived there, warriors, workers, children. All gone. His hands were shaking. She could not breathe properly. The final report was written by a human general. His words were cold and precise. The hegemony has been neutralized. No surviving military assets. No surviving civilian population. Total species extinction confirmed. This action was taken in response to declared intent to enslave and consume human children. It is the position of the Terran High Command that such threats cannot be answered with half measures. The galaxy will remember what happens when humanity is pushed beyond mercy. Species extinction had conquered 11 species. She knew what war looked like, what death looked like. But this was something else entirely. The humans had not conquered They had not enslaved them or taken their resources. They had erased them from existence. She sat alone in the archive room for a long time. The screen glowed in front of her. The numbers blurred. 3 billion lives, gone because they had threatened human children. And then, for 18 years, these same humans had fought They had attacked first. They had killed human soldiers, destroyed human ships, threatened human colonies. But the humans had never pushed back. They had never attacked worlds. They had never tried to end the way they had ended Why? The door opened. An old woman walked in. She wore a uniform covered in medals. Her hair was white, her face was lined with age, and her eyes were cold and hard. Admiral, she said, introducing herself. I commanded the 7th Fleet during the war. I thought you might have questions. Stared at her. You were there. I was. The Admiral sat down across from her. She moved slowly, like someone carrying a heavy weight. I led the attack on their home world. I gave the final order. How could you do that? 3 billion people. They were not people to me, not anymore. The Admiral's voice was flat, empty. When they broadcast what they would do to our children, something broke inside us, inside all of us. We stopped seeing them as living beings. We only saw a threat that had to be removed. That is genocide. Yes. No denial, no excuse, just that single word. Yes. We crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, the Admiral continued. We became the monsters we were fighting against. Some of us knew it even then. Most of us were too angry to care. She paused. The anger faded eventually, and then we had to live with what we had done. Thought about the memorials, the museums, the walls covered with names. That is why you remember, she said slowly. That is why you do not hide your past. Yes, because we know what we are capable of. The darkness is still inside us. Every human carries it, the capacity for total destruction. The Admiral looked at her with those cold, hard eyes. Your people fought us for 18 years. Do you know why we never attacked your worlds? Shook her head. Because we chose not to, because we remembered because we did not want to become monsters again. The Admiral leaned forward. We could have ended the war in a month. We had the weapons, the ships, the willingness, but our leaders decided to wait, to fight defensively, to give your people time to choose peace. You held back. For 18 years, hoping you would stop, hoping we would not have to do what we did before. Felt cold, so cold. The room seemed to spin around her. All those years, all those battles, all those soldiers dying on both sides, and the humans had been holding back the whole time, waiting, praying, hoping they would not have to become monsters again. "Why are you telling me this?" she whispered. The Admiral stood up. She looked older now, tired, broken in ways that did not show on the surface. "Because you are one of us now," she said. "And you deserve to know the truth about what you married into. We are not gentle because we are weak. We are gentle because we know what happens when we are not." She walked to the door. Then she stopped and looked back. "Tell your people," she said, "if they ever think about starting another war with humanity, remind them that we choose mercy, but we do not have to." She left, sat alone in the dark room, surrounded by the ghosts of 3 billion dead. And finally, she understood why no empire in the galaxy dared to challenge humanity. It was not because humans were strong. It was because they were trying so hard not to be monsters. And everyone knew what would happen if they stopped trying. Did not leave the archive building until night had fallen. She walked through the dark streets of the human city, not knowing where she was going. Her mind was full of numbers. 3 billion lives gone in a few months. She thought about her own people, the Dominion, 20 billion citizens across a dozen worlds, strong, proud, warriors all. The humans could have destroyed them. In 18 years of war, they had only defended, only held their ground, only waited. And she had thought they were weak. When she finally reached home, was waiting. He was sitting on the couch in their living room. The lights were low. His face was worried. "I heard you found the files," he said quietly. Stood in the doorway. She could not move, could not speak. She just stared at him, this man she had married, this representative of a species that could burn worlds. "You knew," she finally said, her voice cracked. "When you married me, when you smiled at me and brought me flowers and talked about bread and cheese, you knew what your people did to the—" "Yes." "And you knew your people could have done the same to us." "Yes." She crossed the room in 3 steps. She wanted to hit him, scream at him, demand answers to questions she could not even form. Instead, she collapsed onto the floor in front of him and started crying. Did not cry, that was what she had always believed. Warriors kept their emotions locked away. Pain was weakness, tears were shame. But she cried anyway. Great, shaking sobs that tore through her body like storms. 2 years of confusion and fear and loneliness poured out of her all at once. Did not move at first. He had learned by now that she needed space, that she had to be the one to reach out. But when she reached for him, he was there. He slid off the couch and sat beside her on the floor. He put his arms around her and held her while she cried. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry." "How can you be sorry?" she choked out between sobs. "Your people were right to be angry. They threatened your children. We attacked you for 18 years. How can you be sorry for surviving?" "Because surviving is not the same as being right." His voice was soft, sad. "We killed an entire species, children too, bobbies who never threatened anyone, old ones who just wanted peace. We killed them all because their leaders made terrible choices." He pulled back slightly so he could look at her face. "My grandmother was alive during the war," he said. "She was a soldier. She was there when they bombed the colonies. She lost her best friend, her partner, almost everyone she loved." Listened, she could not speak. "After the war, after we finished my grandmother could not sleep. For years she would wake up screaming, not because of what they did to us, because of what we did to them." Eyes were wet. "She used to tell me stories, not proud stories, terrible ones. She wanted me to understand what we had become, what we could become again if we were not careful." "What stories?" "Stories about landing on their home world, about seeing children hiding in the ruins, about the order to leave no survivors." His voice broke. She followed that order. She had to, but she never forgave herself. She said the anger was like fire. It felt righteous while it burned, but afterward you are just standing in ashes. Thought about the anger she had felt toward humans, the hatred she had been taught since childhood, the pride of the warrior. It all seemed so small now, so pointless. She made me promise, continued. Before she died, she made me promise that if there was ever another way, any other way, I would take it, that I would not let the fire burn everything again. I was your other way, said. Yes, he smiled sadly. When they announced the peace terms, I volunteered immediately. I did not know you. I did not even know if I would like you, but I knew that marrying you was better than killing your people. Anything was better than becoming what we became before. Was quiet for a long time. They sat together on the floor, not speaking. The night grew darker outside. Finally, she asked the question she had been afraid to ask. Do you regret it, marrying me? No, he said it immediately, without hesitation. I expected this to be hard. I expected us to be strangers forever, but something unexpected happened. What? He looked at her. His dark eyes were full of something she had never seen before. Something warm and frightening and beautiful all at once. I fell in love with you, he said. I did not plan it. It just happened. Somewhere between the flowers and the museums and the long walks on the beach, somewhere between learning your language and teaching you mine, I fell in love with you. Her heart stopped, both of them. In 3 years of marriage, he had never said those words. She had thought humans said them easily, carelessly, but she had learned that they did not. Love was a sacred word to them. They only used it when they truly meant it. And he meant it. How can you love me? She whispered. I am my people started the war. My people killed your soldiers, your friends, maybe even your family. How can you love someone like me? Because you are not your people. He took her hands in his. They were warm, strong, gentle. You are the woman who volunteered to marry a stranger to save her sister. The woman who learns something new every day and writes about it in her journal. The woman who cries when my mother hugs her and pretends she was not crying. She tried to look away. He held her gaze. I do not love what your people did, he said. I do not love what my people did either, but I love who you are, and I love who we are becoming together. The past is a ghost, he had told her once. We can either let it haunt us forever, or we can build something new. She had not understood then. She was beginning to understand now. Slowly, carefully, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was not their first kiss. They had kissed on their wedding day in front of crowds of diplomats and generals, but that had been performance. Duty, this was different. This was a choice. When she pulled back, he was smiling. That same gentle smile she had seen on the first day, but now she understood what was behind it. Hope, simple, stubborn hope that the future could be better than the past. I think I love you too, she said quietly. I am still learning what that means, but I think I am starting to understand. He laughed. It was a small, happy sound. That is all I could ever ask for. They sat together until morning, talking, listening, sharing stories they had never shared before. She told him about her childhood in the Dominion, about the pressure of being a princess, about the loneliness of a life shaped by duty. He told her about Earth, about his grandmother, about the weight every human carried, knowing what their species was capable of. When the sun came up, felt different, lighter. Something inside her had shifted. The walls she had built around her heart were crumbling, and for the first time she was not afraid of what might come in. She wrote one line in her journal that morning. I finally understand humans. They are not defined by what they can destroy. They are defined by what they choose to protect. And she was ready to become one of the things they protected. 5 years had passed since Princess of the Dominion had married a human soldier to end a war. She no longer thought of herself as a hostage. She no longer thought of herself as a princess. She was Ambassador Park now. Wife, mother, bridge between two worlds. Her daughter was 2 years old. She had her father's dark hair and her mother's silver-touched skin. Her eyes were something new entirely, dark-like, but with a faint shine that caught the light like distant stars. She was beautiful, impossible, a living symbol of what peace could create. Was holding in her arms when the emergency summons came. The Galactic Assembly was gathering. Urgent session, all ambassadors required. She kissed her daughter's forehead and handed her to. "I will be back soon." "Be careful," he said. There was worry in his eyes. She touched his face gently. "I always am." The assembly chamber was enormous. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their designated sections, arranged in a great circle around a central speaking platform. Light poured down from above, making the platform glow like a stage. Took her seat in the Terran section. Around her, she could feel the tension in the room. Something was wrong. Elder, the assembly speaker, rose to address the gathering. "We have called this emergency session to discuss the actions of the collective," he announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. 3 days ago, warships entered Terran border space. They have established a military presence near the colonies. They have refused to withdraw. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The collective was old and powerful. Their warriors were famous. Their fleet was vast. Looked across the chamber to the section. Their representatives sat tall and proud, their scaled skin gleaming under the lights. They showed no fear, no concern. "The demand territorial concessions," Elder continued. "They claim the systems were illegally colonized. They have given humanity 14 days to withdraw or face consequences." More murmurs, louder now, worried. Understood what was happening. The thought they could push humanity. They thought the galaxy's most dangerous species would bend rather than fight. They were gambling that humanity had grown soft. They were wrong. She stood up. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to look at her. The silver-skinned who had married a human, the princess who had become an ambassador. No one expected her to speak. "I will address the assembly," she said. Elder nodded slowly. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Park of the Terran Republic." Walked down to the central platform. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. She could feel her heart's pounding, but she kept her face calm, her voice steady. She turned to face the delegation directly. "I married a human to stop a war," she began. 5 years ago, I was a princess of the Dominion. We had been fighting humanity for 18 years. We were losing, but I did not understand why. Humans seemed soft to me, emotional, weak. I thought they were simply lucky." She paused. The representatives watched her with cold, calculating eyes. "I was wrong." She told them about her journey, about the flowers and the museums, about crying at stories and choosing to feel. She told them about who lost her son but still embraced her enemy. She told them about the memorials where humans displayed their own darkness instead of hiding it. And then she told them about the chamber grew very still. 40 years ago, the hegemony threatened to enslave humanity. They promised to feast on human children. They thought humans were weak, easy prey. His voice hardened. The hegemony no longer exists. Every ship, every colony, every man, woman, and child, 3 billion lives gone in 11 months. She watched the delegation. Some of them were pale now. Others were gripping the arms of their chairs. "Humanity did not conquer continued. They did not take their worlds or steal their resources. They simply ended them, completely, totally, forever." She let the words hang in the air. "And then for 18 years they fought my people. Though we attacked first, we killed their soldiers, we bombed their colonies, and do you know what they did?" "Silence!" "Nothing. They held their ground. They defended themselves. They never attacked our worlds. They never tried to destroy us." She took a step closer to the section. "They could have ended us in a month. They had the weapons, the ships, the will, but they chose not to. They gave us chance after chance after chance to choose peace. Because they were weak," one of the representatives said loudly. He was tall even for his species, with scars on his scales that marked him as a veteran. "Because they were afraid." No, smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Because they remembered what they did because they did not want to become monsters again. They extended their hand in friendship and held their other hand behind their back." She looked directly at the veteran. "But make no mistake. That hidden hand holds fire enough to burn galaxies, and if you threaten their children, their families, their future, they will use it." The veteran opened his mouth to respond. Cut him off. "I have seen human children laugh. I have seen human elders weep for strangers. I have seen my husband plant flowers in a garden and read poetry and hold me when I was afraid. Humans are capable of such profound gentleness." Her voice dropped low, cold. "They are also capable of erasing entire species from existence when that gentleness is mistaken for weakness." She looked around the chamber. Every representative was watching her, listening. They learned this lesson too late. My own people nearly learned it. They should consider very carefully which lesson they prefer. She turned and walked back to her seat. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. No one spoke for a long time. That night the delegation quietly their fleet from Terran space. No war, no bloodshed, no burning worlds, just the memory of and the understanding of what humanity would do again if they had to. Was waiting for her outside the assembly hall. Was in his arms, sleeping peacefully, her silver-touched face soft with dreams. I saw the broadcast, he said. You were amazing. I was terrified. That is what made it amazing. He smiled that gentle smile that she had loved since the beginning. You told the truth. That takes more courage than any battle. She looked at them, her husband, her daughter. This strange and beautiful family she had never expected to find. 5 years ago, she had walked into an enemy's world expecting to find monsters. Instead, she had found people. Complicated, broken, beautiful people who carried darkness inside them but chose light anyway. Let us go home, she said. I am tired. They walked together through the corridors of the station. Outside the windows, stars burned bright against the endless black. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was rebuilding, learning to live without war. Her sister had married for love now, not duty. Her mother had finally stopped wearing battle armor. Peace was growing slowly, like a flower in hard soil. And here, in her arms, the future slept quietly. A child of two worlds, a symbol of everything that was possible when enemies chose to become family. Look, Dad, he was watching the stars too, his face thoughtful. What are you thinking about? She asked. The future, he said. Our daughter's future. What kind of galaxy she will grow up in. A better one, said. We will make sure of it. He kissed her forehead. I know we will. They boarded their ship and set course for Earth, for home. Held her daughter close and watched the stars stream past. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. The fear and confusion and pain, the slow discovery of love, the terrible truths and the beautiful ones. She had married a human to stop a war. She had stayed because she finally understood something important. Humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons, not their ships, not their terrible capacity for destruction. It was their stubborn, irrational, magnificent refusal to let destruction define them. They could be monsters. They had been monsters. But every day they chose to be something else instead. And that thought was the most human thing of all.